Complimentary webinar on 5G architecture evolving from NSA to SA. I'm Manohar Prasad from Award Solutions, facilitating this 1 hour session. Okay, about me quickly. I'm Manohar Prasad from Award Solutions, having about 19 plus years of wireless experience in wireless telecommunications. And main focus is on 4G, 5G as of now, both the radio and core networks. Quickly about Award Solutions, we are trusted by about 255 plus companies, both in cable and wireless. Our vendors include chipset vendors, network vendors, tool vendors, service providers, and also application providers. We were one of the best companies to work in the state of Texas for the year 2019, and we have our partnerships with Mobile World Congress and also the CCA and CTIA. About Award Solutions courses, so we have delivered about 101K plus students trained in LTE, about 8,000 plus students in 5G, and 25,000 plus students trained in virtualization, and of course our new courses that is on the data analytics and artificial intelligence. About 2.3K plus students have been trained, and our courses are more focused on demand or live, and it is very relevant for role specific, and it is KPI impacting and highly recommended, in the sense about 98% of the students who have participated in our courses have recommended it to the peers. Okay, so this is about our Award Solutions. And to know more about Award Solutions offerings, you can use these QR codes to stay in touch with our new course schedules. Either you can follow the Award Solutions on LinkedIn, or you can use this QR code, right? So to follow me with Manohar ISR on LinkedIn. So I will pass. You can send me a mail, and I will I will forward the offerings from Award Solutions to get a discount on our tech primers. There are or the self-paced learning. You can use this QR code, right? So you can use this code. Okay. About our Award Solutions courses in the stream of 5G virtualization, automation, and analysis. We have the courses. Okay, so we have the foundation courses and the advanced courses. So here, in case of 5G, if you are looking from the RAN perspective, then you have a list of courses in the foundation courses. A more advanced course will be the NR air interface, and also those who are looking into planning and design. We have a 3-day planning and design course, and we do have RAN performance courses both for MEA and SA, both signaling and operations, and we do have a workshop of 5 weeks, which is a blended format staggered over 5 weeks, including articles, videos, and good white papers associated with that. So a good learning. So please, if you are interested, please do log on to www.com to know, right, awardsolutions.com to know about our offerings. About 5G core network, the basic course is 5G networks and services, followed by blended courses, 5G core network signaling and operations, a 4-week course, or you can also have our new course on voice solutions, that is voice solutions in 5G, VoNR, and EPS fallback, right? Now about our automation and insights. So these are our new courses that we have for this stream. And So with this, I complete the introduction, and now let's move on to our most interested topic, that is right 5G NR architecture, the evolution from NSA to SA. So objectives of this 1 hour session is to prepare for transition from 4G LTE networks to 5G networks, but we have the deployments happening in the step, in the sense that first we are going to see the migration towards the NSA deployment or non-standalone deployment, and later on we move on with SA deployment, that is a standalone deployment, standalone networks, and then we look into the end-to-end network architecture, including the 5G RAN as well as the 5G core, also popularly known as 5GC. And then we look into the then we start with the sketching about the deployment of the MEC, that is multi-access edge computing. We also look into the concept of the network slicing and also the voice solutions in 5G SA networks as defined by the 3GPP standards. So now let's start with the introduction. So that is we are more looking at 4G to 5G network evolution, and we focus upon the NSA option, that is non-standalone option. Within that, we are looking into the 3X options, which is very popular around the world. We look at the 3X options. So let's start with the 4G core first. So 4G networks rather. So in the 4G network, which was also called as a EPS network, evolved packet system, is what we called in the 3GPP terminology. So we have the 4 components. The UE, the LTE UE is the first component. Then we have the EUTRA, right, evolved UMTS terrestrial radio access, which was the second component that we had in the network. And then we had the EUT-RAN, that is the radio access network for LTE, consisting of the E-node Bs. That was our third component. And then we had the EPC, that is the evolved packet core, which was our fourth component. So this connected to the data networks as well as to the IMS. Here in this terminology, we call that as a PDN, or packet data network, is what we saw in the 4G network. Now, similar to the EPS, now we have something called as a 5GS or 5G system, is what my standards are talking about, where we have the 5G UE as component 1, a new air interface technology called as a new radio, which forms my second component of the 5GS, right? And then comes the NG-RAN or the 5G RAN. Okay, so we have the 5G RAN, or also called as NG-RAN. Okay, so NG-RAN is the third component, wherein we are introducing the concept of virtualization. Okay, so we are bringing in the virtualization part. Okay, and then we have the core network, which is entirely virtualized, which is called the 5GC. Okay, so the 5GC is the fourth component of our discussion. Okay, so this being our third component for discussion. So here is the fourth component, and again we see that basic connectivity like what we had before. In the previous case, we had something called as VoLTE, and now here we are going to have something called as VoNR, right, to suggest that this voice is over the 5G, right? So that will be the IMS. You may also see sometimes the specifications and other vendor documents talking about supporting IMS voice. Okay, so in that sense, we have right, we have this this particular network, right, to be defined by the 3GPP, right? And the difference is, in the previous cases we called it as a PDN, but now we call it as a DNN, data network name is what we use here. So that will be the concept that is evolving. So we look into this. How about each one of them in the next few slides? Okay. So for those of you who joined late, I'm Manohara SR from Award Solutions, facilitating this 1 hour program on 1 hour session on 5G NR architecture evolution, evolving from NSA to SA. Okay, so right, so we have the, so we move in that direction. So now how about the migration? So operators are today well deployed. They have optimized the network of LTE. So in the LTE network, they have the LTE base stations or the E-Node Bs, and they have an EPC. So tomorrow, when we want to evolve to a 5G, right? So the 5G network is actually the SA component. That is, we have the standalone option. So that is a pure 5G network where we have a 5G core feeding in the NG-RAN, that is the G-Node Bs, or what you call it as gigabit base stations, G-Node Bs, right? So, and G-Node B in turn is pumping over the NR interface to the UE. So this is a vanilla 5G. But then operators already have an infrastructure, and their networks are already matured in terms of 4G. So they would like to move in steps. So that's where comes my option, that is 3X, which is the non-stand-alone option, wherein we introducing the G-Node Bs. Okay, so we are introducing the G-Node B in the EUTRON. Okay, to be very specific, in the EUTRON. So this G-Node B is actually called the EN Node B. Okay, EN suggests that it is the EUTRA NR dual connectivity is in place. Okay, so this EN Node B is talking to the UE over the NR interface. Is talking to the UE over the NR interface, while on the core network side and on the RAN side, it is using the traditional X2 and S1 interfaces itself. So in that sense, we see that this solution is for pumping more data rates. So we are looking at it as a solution to pump more data rates as such. The QoS, the services are all going to be almost the same as what we have today in the LTE. But tomorrow, when we are moving from NSA to SA, things are going to change, where we are now introducing the new interfaces, that is N2, N3 interfaces towards the core, as well as to the other G-Node Bs. Okay, to the other G-Node Bs, we are introducing the XN interface, which happens to be the XN interface, which happens to be the connectivity on the NG RAN between the two G-Node Bs. Okay, and the UR, and on the radio side we have only the NR. So on the 3X side, on the NSA 3X side, we see that the UE is going to receive data from both LTE, the air interface, as well as the newer 5G air interface, which is also called as the NR. Okay, so now forward, however, what are the key building blocks for the option 3X? So when we talk about the option 3X, typically my NR interface being pumped by G-Node B. So at this time, let us look into only the G node B as of not the DUCU concept. We will move into that later on. When you look at from the G node B, the G node B supports a different bandwidth, that is low, mid, and high bands. So right from 400 megahertz, you can support up until 62 gigahertz as of now. Okay, 62 and 70 gigahertz typically are being talked about in the industry. So you can think about what is the kind of bandwidth that is available. Some of the bands that are being defined in 3GPP can support about 400 megahertz of bandwidth, which is typically about 20 times the bandwidth that we are talking about in the LTE. So you can assume, you can see what kind of the data rates that can be pumped across across the air interface to the UE. This is done by the G node Bs. Okay, so that is the first one. So larger bandwidth concept, as we have the higher bands, larger bandwidths are available. So as I mentioned before, so we can have up to about 400 megahertz of bandwidth in a single channel that can be supported. Carrier aggregation, which is a continuity like what we had before. We can still have carrier aggregation where we can aggregate more than one carrier, either to have a single larger bandwidth or multiple such larger bandwidth, in the sense that multiples of 400 megahertz is what I'm trying to mention. And then of course we support beamforming and MIMO. So we have advanced beamforming, what we call as massive MIMO, is being supported in 5G, where we can support very high capacity in terms of throughput or in terms of number of subscribers that can be simultaneously handled. And a very new concept is we see that virtualization is involved, where we see that in the virtualized RAN, that is NG-RAN, we have a split G node B architecture, wherein the G node B, which is almost similar to the LTE in terms of protocol stack, is divided into two functionalities. One is the G node B DU, and another one is the G node B CU, that is distributed unit and a centralized unit is what we see. This is to provide flexibility for the deployment to support applications like smart car solutions to the traditional internet kind of applications. Okay, so now moving forward, let's look at more about the G node B split architecture that is supported in 5G. As we all are aware, in case of 4G, we had in 4G we had the concept of the CPRI. So CPRI was the concept that was that evolved, right, wherein we have a split between the BBU, that is a baseband unit, and the RU, which is radio unit, or the remote unit, or sometimes it is also called as a remote radio head or the remote radio unit. So this was the kind of deployments that we see in case of LTE deployment. But as the network started getting matured in terms of technology, we started moving towards the centralized concept or centralized RAN concept, that is CRAN concept, where a single BBU pool was defined. So this is basically a pool or a concept of pool or hotel. So wherein all the hardware is located in a single geography, okay, maybe in a single room is what we see. From there we run the optical fibers across the network, and then we distribute the RRU. So typically here my distance could be as high as approximately about So this gives a very good benefit of saving in terms of capex and also the opex. In terms of saving, the infrastructure costs are going to be reduced. So this was the concept that was developed, okay, during the actual concept came during the Beijing Olympics, and then people started talking about what can we cloud, can we host this BBU pool on a cloud? If you host the BBU pool on the cloud, then we get a CRAN, which is again a cloud RAN. Okay, so from this, when we move on, so this is what we had in our legacy 4G networks, and now as we move forward to the 5G, what we have in 5G is a distributed architecture where my BBU pool is further divided. Okay, so this is my BBU pool. Okay, so this is the BBU pool that we are talking about, which is split into the CU, which is the centralized unit. So something like what you may have heard in 3G, where we had a concept of a centralized RNC for with the distributed node B concept. So similarly here we are bringing again the same concept, almost like same, where we have a centralized unit which is handling the resource allocation and resource management, which is a centralized unit, and the actual scheduling functionality is going to be in the DU. Okay, so we have a split in the CU DU, right? And then the DU is connected to the RU through the front end. So what we were talking in the 4G language, we had a front hall which is reused. So this is my front hall. Okay, and while we are splitting, we are introducing yet another concept, and that is called as a mid hall. Now this gives the operators the kind of flexibility for deploying the services, keeping in keeping in keeping in mind the requirements from the performance point of view. Okay, so we are talking about basically in terms of the latency requirement. So where the CU, DU, and RU could be in a single location, or it could be in 3 different locations, depending upon the infrastructure that is available with the operator. Okay, so in that sense, it really gives a kind of flexibility that operators are looking for. So we will look into that in the next part when we look into the MEC. So this is about the RAN evolution, and now we look into the case of a standalone option 2, that is the SA option 2. When we deploy SA option 2, how it will be. So we are looking at, when we migrate from 4G to 5G, we are basically looking at a paradigm shift, in the sense that my services are going to be very different, in the sense that we are now adding newer services. To name a few, we are talking about the MIoT, that is massive IoT. We are talking about the AR, augmented reality or virtual reality kind of services, AR, VR. We are talking about a star, right? A smart car or self-driving car. Okay, smart car or self-driving car is what we are looking at. Self-driving vehicles or self-driving cars is the kind of solutions that we are talking about. And also, when the infrastructure is available, why not explore into new avenues for increasing the revenue for the operator? In the sense, we are talking about industrial automation, or what we call it as industrial OT. So this is where we are trying to explore newer, fields, right, and newer markets, so that we can provide a good connectivity with both reliability as well as right? As well as with very, very low latency, which may be the requirement for industries. So in that sense, the first part is basically about the kind of services. Then we are talking about the technology features like the MEC, that is mobile, right, multi-access edge computing, where in case whenever there is a requirement of a very low delay, we can route the traffic outside from the MEC server itself rather than taking it to the centralized cloud network. Okay. Apart from that, we are also now formalizing the services from the third party, which earlier was not the case, right? Here, now the augmentation of third party services is very simple. So in that sense, my 5G core can handle the third party services also. Okay, so these are the three major focus in the 5G networks. Now, when we now want to map the 4G core network, that is the EPC, to the 5G core network or the 5GC, the functions are newer names, but actually the functions what we are doing is not very different, in the sense that in the case of LTE, we had a MME, that is mobility management entity. In case of 5G, we have a functionality similar to that, which is called as a AMF, access and mobility management function, which does the EMM functions, only the EMM functions of the MME. Okay, and then we had another function which is only doing the session management, and that is the SMF, which is having the ESM states plus the S gateway, right? Plus the S gateway and P gateway. Okay, the S gateway and P gateway C plane is put together to call it as a session management. So this will give more flexibility in terms of managing the session, right? Wherein depending upon the slice information and the services, you can have different session management functions anchoring the call. In that sense, you get more flexibility. Okay, so in our 5G networks and services today course, we go into more details of the advantages that we get because of the definition of SMF, and also along with the network signaling. And in our blended course, actually we go into further details, showing you into the message details, and also we highlight some very important parameters there. And apart from that, we also have the UPF, that is the user plane function, which is basically the S gateway, P gateway, U plane functionality sitting together. Okay, so that's what we have. So in that sense, we have a quick mapping. There are other functions also to be mapping. So because of the time constraint, we are not going into more details at this point of time. Okay, and then about the 5G building blocks to put together, about both from the radio and the core. So on the radio, you see the larger bandwidth to 400 megahertz, right? The bandwidth. You see the support for high, low, and mid. We already saw about it. Flexible frame structure is the one which allows for propagation as well as the services. Okay, and then we have the massive MIMO. We saw about it. We also saw about the split architecture. And when we talk about the core network, what we really see is we are seeing the virtualization. So we are seeing that the network functions can be instantiated on a cloud platform, and then we try to we can make use of edge computing, and network slicing is a very, very important feature of the 5G networks. Okay, and then right, what about the similarities and differentiations? Okay, in the case of LTE EPC, what we have is a point-to-point interfaces which use some standard protocols, like example GTP V2C or maybe diameter. When we look into 5G core, the 5G core is mostly using service-based interfaces, or what we call as the SPI. Okay, service-based interface architecture is what we have in 5G, where we have all the communicating entities to be called as network functions. Okay, so the functionality wise is more or less the same, but because of the newer concept, okay, newer concepts that are evolving with the 5G, we are introducing newer functions. Like example, the network slicing concept was not there in 4G, but it is now the basic feature of the 5G core. So how about differentiating the different slices, and somebody who can keep information about these slices is the NSSF, network slice selection function, is the newer one that we have. And now when we are looking at a service based architecture, we are looking at consumers and producers kind of a communication that we have. In that case, a very important network function that will be acting as a broker or a matchmaker to allow service consumers to find out who is the producer, because you have many instances of network functions. Like example, you have many AMFs and many SMFs in the network. For a particular UE, when an AMF wants to talk to the SMF, it has to do the discovery, right, before it can communicate. Now, who helps in the discovery procedure is the NRF, the network function repository function. So this network repository function is the one which is a database which keeps the data about all the network functions which are active at that particular instance of time. Okay, so in that sense, the NRF is very important. And then we had a bit of trouble in 4G when we introduced the IoT, in the sense is, how can I allow IoT services to how can I allow IoT packets to be accessed by third party? Like example, you have a utility company like electricity company, so that electricity company has hosted a server, and now how can the devices inform the server about the utility? So in that case, we had something called as a SCEF at that time, but then that was not very mature. But now here in case of 5G, very similar to that SCEF, we are now talking about a NEF, network, right? Exposure function is what we have, where this is exposing both the events as well as the UE's data to the external world. Typically, the NEF can be used for third-party applicator to connect to the third-party application functions. Okay, so these are some of the differences that we see between the 4G and the 5G networks. Now, how about the evolution that is happening from 4G to 5G? So we have a traditional LTE network which was defined in our release 8, from release 8 to release 13. Okay, release 8 to 13 was what we had the LTE concept, and now in the release 14, we are introducing you to the CUPS architecture, that is control and user plane separation, where we are dividing the network functionalities based on the control plane and the user plane. Typically, the S gateway and P gateway is divided into control plane and user plane with a new function, with a new interface called as SXC. Okay, so the SX interface is the new interface that has been brought to to allow communication between the control plane and the user plane. Now, in the release 15 and 16, as of now, because 15 standards are almost frozen, and the 16 standards are the ones, the 16 standards are the ones which are evolving. We see that we have a 5G standardization, which is going to exploit the cloud platform, and which is going to build upon the CUPS architecture that what we had with LTE release 14, where we were going for modularization of functionalities. So that will be very highly required when we want to exploit the cloud platform. Okay, and now we come towards the last topic, that is we want to look into the MEC, network slicing, and also the voice solutions. In case if anybody has any questions or any points to make, please feel free to send your questions or queries or your points on the chat engine. I would like to take those questions as you send it. Okay, right? So please feel free to send your questions on the chat engine, and please do right. Please do aim the messages at all attendees so that everybody is in the know of your questions. So now we come to the last topic, that is the MEC, right? The MEC network slicing and the voice solutions. So we start with an example of the MEC services or multi-access edge computing solutions in the deployment. So how does that happen? So UPF, or the user plane function, is the gateway. Okay, Vinay Gupta has a question about the power split. Actually, in the sense is that as of now, the the dual connectivity concept is more towards the downlink. Okay, so it is not in the uplink. Is what we are seeing in the network. Okay, so in that sense, we do not have a power split as of now. But when you are deploying the 3x with uplink dual connectivity, then more power is required. Okay, at this point of time. Will that be fine, Vinay? Okay. So now, welcome. So now let's move on with our discussions. Okay. So we look into the MEC kind of deployment. So in the MEC kind of a deployment, you are all aware that in 5G, the gateway equivalent to your GGSN in 3G, or the P gateway or the PDN gateway in the 4G is the UPF, that is user plane function. Now what happens is, because of the virtualization, my UPF functionality can be placed either in the anywhere in the cloud. So what happens is, we would have placed an UPF, which can be called as IUPF or intermediate UPF, in the radio network very close to the UE, and we also have another UPF in the core network, which will get connected to the centralized data network. So what we are doing is, we are now having a local data network and a centralized data network kind of a deployment, where the internet kind of a browser or internet or a browsing kind of a traffic will move from UE to G node B to IUPF to the UPF, that is the session anchor, and from here it moves on to the internet or WWW Suppose that this was a MEC application, like example an AR application, augmented reality kind of an application, where we are having a particular geographic specific information that needs to be accessed by the UE, or a video or a virtual reality kind of a service, right? Here what happens is, we are going to have a host, we are going to host an MEC server, right? MEC server, as well as, right, as well as a local DNN to host those AR VR kind of a service. In that scenario, the UE, right? So the UE is going to receive the data from UE to base station to the IUPF to the MEC server to the local DNN. So in this case, we see that the data can be retrieved locally or it can be retrieved from a central location. Thereby, the performance of the services can be improved in terms of latency, bandwidth, and also computing. So there are lot many use cases that are being defined where the device is only going to give the input to the server, that is the MEC server, and the MEC server is going to do all the processing, and just it will give the answer about what the requirement was. Like example, you can instead of a device doing a video processing, wasting all the power, right? Let the video snaps be sent to the server. The server will do all the process. Let the server provide only the result of the computation. In that sense, we can reduce the computation and save the battery of the user. So these are some of the services that are being talked about in the industry. Now, when we talk about from the MEC perspective, that is the multi-access edge computing, we have to look into the infrastructure that is available with the operator. So whether the operator wants to use a global cloud or global data center infrastructure, like example the ones like Google's, Amazon, right? So those are the global cloud providers. Do we want to access that cloud, or does the operator wants to have a centralized cloud, which is also called as the core edge cloud, wherein he is hosting a centralized data center, or whether the operator has a RAN edge, that is towards the edge of a RAN. You can assume this to be as somewhere between the RNC and the base station. Okay, so in that situation, where is it available? Please remember, in this case, the number of locations are going to be huge. So naturally, there is going to be a higher initial investment in deploying the cloud infrastructure. If it was only centralized cloud, then there is only one location. So that was very good. But then the services are going to have limitation in terms of latency, right? So that has to be kept in mind. A better option that we are trying to look in for our future, not in the in the near future, but in the far future, is the access edge, that is the cell site itself. We are going to host a cloud. So these kind of requirements are going to be very much required when we look at V2X kind of a service, that is vehicle to everything kind of a service, where the latency that we are talking about is within few milliseconds in a sense, less than around 5 milliseconds kind of a latency. If we are talking about, then we have to have a cloud infrastructure at the access edge, or what we call it as the cell site. So this defines what is the kind of end-to-end latency that can be provided for the various services. Now, based on these infrastructure, the operators are going to define what services are going to be provided, and what are the kind of performance targets that they are going to provide, is all based on the kind of the infrastructure that is available with the operator. Okay, so this infrastructure plays a very important role, and this involves cost. So the most likely thing that what we are talking about today as of now is that the clouds or the initial cloud infrastructure is going to be there in the centralized cloud, and a localized cloud, or a local cloud, or a regional cloud, typically an RNC location. Later on, People later on, operators are also talking about migrating or evolving to a cloud in the edge, okay, in the RAN edge, in the sense that these are going to be the locations of your cell site router, or what we call it as the CSG. Okay, so the CSGs are going to be the next locations, and finally finally maybe down the line they are going to move the infrastructure of the cloud infrastructure to the cell sites. So that is what is the plan that is being talked about in the industry. Now, the next very important thing is the network slicing concept. So network slice is a logical network which is right, which is designed to provide to provide very high performance in terms of services. Okay, so as of now, in the standard 16, in the release 16, we do have 4 slices that are defined. The first slice is the EMBB, that is enhanced mobile broadband, to support internet kind of a service, where we are talking about very high capacity in terms of throughput and also in terms of number of users, right? So that is the first slice that we are talking about. The second slice is the MIoT or massive IoT, where we are talking about utility meters kind of a service, or right, or fleet tracking, or traffic monitoring. So these are some of the applications that fall under MIoT. Yet again, we have a URLLC slice, where we are talking about a right. We are talking about industrial IoT at this stage, and we have a new definition of a V2X slice, which is the 4th slice that is being talked about. What is that one advantage we see with this slice is these logical slices are perfectly isolated, in the sense that a failure in one slice does not affect any other slices. This is very important from the operator's perspective when they are talking about very high number of services having different performance requirements. One thing that operators in 4G are facing is any addition of new service has got its impact on the existing services. Like example, introduction of a VoLTE or an IoT service has got an impact on the data rates or the internet browsing kind of applications. Now that we are introducing the slicing concept, where operators are virtually slicing the networks, so means that these are different logical networks, but using the same shared resources. Okay, in that sense, the flexibility or the agility for the operators is going to be very high. So this is what we are bringing in. And now, along with this, we have new functions that are being brought about. One is the NSSF we saw about, which allows for the selection of a slice. And then we have a UDM, that is Unified Data Management, which is similar to the HSS, which stores the data subscriptions for all the slices. And very important, we are now having a PCF, that is policy and charging function, which is the release 15 of the PCRF, which provides the policy for both, not just only charging and service QoS, but here we go one step ahead, and you see that the ANDSF kind of functionality, that is access network discovery and selection functionality, is also moved to the PCF. In that sense, my PCF will also provide the access policies, right? Which network, which slices, right? Which slices can be accessed in a particular service area, and which access types, like example 5G or the wireless or the wireline network, can be accessed in a particular geography, will be defined by the PCF. So that's a new thing that we see in 5G. And that is about the network slicing. Okay, so we do have 2 courses, one a tech primer course on network slicing, and we have a 1-day course also of which goes into more details about the messaging and also the parameters about the network slicing. If anybody is interested, please do log on to www.awardsolutions.com to know more about our offerings on that course. But then, a very important thing that we talk about from the 5G services is that in the present LTE network, the voice is provided as a Vivo IP service, or to be precise, a very popular term called as a VoLTE or voice over LTE is being provided, where my LTE is being accessed through the EPC and an IMS network. Now, as we migrate towards the 5G, the first step where we have a NSA solution, the industry is talking about the G node B pumping very high data would be very good for browsing kind of a traffic, but not for a Vivo IP kind of a service because of the availability, at least in the initial stages. So what they are talking about in the NSA option is data can be pumped by both E node B and G node B, while the voice is going to be exclusively on the E node B front. So we get a VoLTE call itself in the 5G NSA kind of a deployment. But when we go into 5G SA, there will be no E node B. So the voice option will be from IMS through the 5G core to the 5G G node B to the SA. So this kind of a solution is called as VoNR, voice over NR. Sometimes some of the industry literature also talks about Vivo 5G. Okay, so both Vivo 5G as well as Vivo NR are the same, where we are talking about the voice traffic to be pumped over the 5G. But then we may have a question, what about in case where 5G deployment is very sparse? Like example, it is like islands. In that situation, what will we do? So my 5G network, my 3GPP has a solution similar to the circuit switched fallback, or what we call a CS fallback. Now here we have a solution called as EPS fallback. That is, when a network comes to know about the UE is going to make a call, voice call, then the UE will be handed over to the LTE EPC, so that we now have a VoLTE call. Okay, so we now have a VoLTE call, and this is called as EPS fallback. Okay, so this is one possibility that will be there, at least in the initial stages of 5G deployment, SA deployment. We are going to support EPS fallback because we are going to have a interworking defined, very well defined interworking between the 5G core and the EPC. Okay, so this is what we are going to support. So just like in the initial days where we had a CS fallback, now similar to that, we have something called as EPS fallback. When is this EPS fallback going to be successful? Is when we have a 5G LTE to interworking. 5G to LTE interworking is possible, where we see when we say 5G to LTE interworking, we always assume that LTE release is release 14, where we have the CUPS architecture. Okay, only when we have a CUPS architecture, we can support this kind of a deployment, where my PCF is together with the PCRF. The UPF functionality is together with the P gateway U functionality. The SMF is there together with the P gateway C plane, and we have a separate S gateway. Okay, we have a separate S gateway. The HSS and the UDM are co-located. So only in this scenario we can have an interworking between 5G to 4G or 5G to EPS. Is any operator deploying VoNR currently? As of now, it is still in the trial stage. But yes, operators are talking about migrating towards the 5G for VoNR. But then the majority of 5G is a question. So mostly what we are going to have is IPS fallback, number one. Number two is you may also have something called as a IRAD fallback, where 5G core is handling the voice, but then the radio is not NR, but the radio is going to be LTE, or what we call it as NGE node B. So that solution is also being talked about. Is that fine, sir? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, so one of the prime requirement for the EPS fallback to happen is that your interworking architecture has to be defined, because just like in the case of CS fallback, where you could move from LTE to 3G and 3G to LTE seamlessly, here my interworking strategies is also very much required. Okay. So with this, we come to a close. So we saw about we saw about what are the various options that we have for deploying the 5G, especially in terms of 5G NSA options. Okay, so option 3X is a very important option for the operators.